Hello. So, we ended up actually getting a very, very hectic week, or exciting week for Path of Titans. First it started off with an entire podcast that Zilla had with Alder and Matt. I'll put the link for this in the description. Try and listen for yourself. There was, you could call that a pseudo-announcement, that entire, podcast. But in that live stream, while Matt was talking and, giving off a bunch of juicy info of what possibly could be coming in the future and some thoughts about the game and its development, while he's talking about all that, you just have Zilla fighting for his life because he was getting stream sniped constantly. And amidst all the things that Matt was talking about, he ended up actually mentioning the milestone system, in which this footage right here on screen was from the test server on the day where they did a test for the milestones, in which I'm just right now trying to kill a fish critter and then have a look at the milestones afterwards. And, well, safe to say, it is rather extensive. This right here is just the metrics of what I've done on the dinos that I own, but on the left you can see the triumphs, which are more like little challenges, and they have plenty of different rewards planned for the future, including, from what Matt ended up saying, hundreds of skins. And then, if you want the icing on the cake, there's been a solo matchmaking test that's been active right now, in which they're trying to, well, get the back end sorted for us to actually finally get maybe the matchmaking updates right. In which is going to come in parts, but that's fine. Any start is better than no start. So, safe to say, I'm just looking forward to what's coming in the future. But, I think that's enough of that. Go subscribe to Zilla if you haven't already. His critical yet positive attitude towards discussion has opened a pretty important door for some added transparency from the developers. So, as I said, yeah, just go subscribe to him. But with all this exciting news, that's not what, well, the rest of this video is going to be about. And, well, all I can say is that this was a very, very interesting fight and encounter over in Cedrus Forest. And the reason of its conclusion was actually pretty damn funny. There's nothing else I really have to say about, well, all the good news that we've had so far. So, with all that out of the way, I hope you all enjoy. And so, before we go over the whole fight that's in this video, how about we go over our team setup real quickly. So first up we have Indo on a Kilobeta, followed by Sticky on Concavinator, but then next up is Storm, who's playing on a dry build Suko with Sharkbite, followed by Tajtone on Latina Venatrix, and then also Tango on Ramphorhynchus. And lastly, there's me on a Meat Shield build Deinonychus. Though sometimes there will be interruptions, like maybe a Concavinator that shows up, or perhaps even a Ramphorhynchus that decides to get involved. At this time, there was a pretty heavy rainstorm outside, and so I apologize if you end up hearing the in the background.
Titan.
And so here, Tango ended up calling out that he had spotted quite a few Titans and Rexes in the area, and so we're just rushing over because, hey, interaction. And when it's outside of mudflats, you take what you can get.
Oh, and another Rex, yeah.
And so my main job is kind of just a meat shield for the Suchomimus, but as you can see in the distance, they're a good ways off, so until they end up getting here, I'm just going to use Distracting Chatter, giving a bit of armor towards Indo, Sticky, and Taj, in order to make them feel a bit more comfortable and deal whatever damage that they can. But as soon as Storm arrives, I hop on his side, and he starts to find any opening that he can in order to reduce their bleed healing. And along with that, since Suchomimus is going to be the juiciest looking target for these lot, it may be capable of separating them by drawing one or two of these apexes away from their friends, granting a few more openings to the smalls in order to get some more damage in. This is mainly a bleed-focused setup, so as long as something is bleeding at all times, it can work out.
Jesus, how many Titans?
Well, specifically, there were 3 Titans and 2 Rexes. But one of these Rexes were actually, well, I guess talking to the Titans, while the one Rex that was on the side, I guess they just wanted to get involved, and decided to group with the Titans and the Rex, since, hey, that looks like a scarier setup to deal with. And so while me and Storm have taken the attention of two of the Tyranno Titans, Sticky and Indo have taken the attention of the Rex and the final Tyranno Titan in this moment, and they've dealt a considerable amount of damage to this red-headed Tyranno Titan. As the death scars are just starting to show, Taj ends up taking a hit and is pretty much just bleeding out, in which he does end up passing. But this won't deter Sticky from continuing to stack up bleed on the Tyranno Titan, who is pretty much almost meeting their ancestors, leaving an opening for Indo to try and get some damage in, but Indo unfortunately gets caught off guard by the Melanistic Rex that shows up and lands a grab on him. And all we can really do is now listen to Indo in the voice call saying, "Ah, I got grabbed. That is so unfortunate." While on mine and Storm's end, I hopped on his side, and we started to try and get some damage on one of the Tyranno Titans, though I ended up taking a good hit myself.
I gotta hop off now. There you go.
I move aside to kind of just try and find a spot to get this bleed off and heal up a little bit, and as you could see, it's not the greatest spot ever, in which I'm regretting all my life choices as soon as I start to sleep, and the Tyranno Titan ends up walking right over to me.
Oh no.
Though fortunately for me, Storm was there to kind of just keep their attention.
If I hide, if I don't move.
Storm is dragging these two titans towards the water, and as for me, I'm gonna kind of just find a better spot to heal. Though not without a jump scare while I'm trying to invite Indo back to the group.
Tango, you twat. You scared the shit out of me!
The fortunate part about Indo getting grabbed by the Melanistic Rex is that, well, in that moment where the Rex ended up grabbing him and killing him, Sticky went in and dealt the final blow towards the red-headed Tyranno Titan, finishing it off. And during my time while I was healing, there was another Concavinator in the area that was friendly with Sticky, and they decided to go against this pack of Apexes. But now I'm done healing, and I'm ready to hop back onto Storm.
I got pretty good health.
And depending on who you're playing with, it's important on which side you pick. As in Storm's case, he likes to aim his camera to the right in order to get damage out, while also avoiding damage himself. And so if I'm on his left side, it makes it easier for him to keep me safe. And so we're just threatening this Tyranno Titan, trying to keep its attention, while Sticky and the other Concavinator are dealing bleed to whatever is in the backline, while then also giving an opportunity for Sticky to move up and deal some bleed damage to this one, which in turn ends up pushing them all to group together.
No, here they all come now. Here they all come.
But as I already said, that is not going to stop Sticky. He is pretty much just dicing with death, playing very, very aggro, and it's just working out. But our issue right now is that we just don't have enough stopping power or enough, well, diversion that we can use to actually pick them apart. And so we're kind of forced to maybe move a little closer towards the water.
I gotta hop off a stem.
And so now, until Indo and Taj end up making it back, it's a bit of a staring contest, in which every time I end up hopping onto Storm's side, well, we end up getting rushed by two Rexes, or two Titans, in which, yeah, Storm may have a meat shield Denon to protect his health, but hey, that's still a very scary thing, because as soon as I'm gone, Storm is just going to get melted. Surprisingly, the thing that has been most useful about this setup right now is that every time that they try to rush after Storm with me on his side, it gives an opening for Sticky to try and get some damage in. Even if unsuccessful, an attempt made and failed is better than an attempt never made at all. In which, if they then start to target Sticky, that gives a nice little opening for us to do whatever we can.
My stamina's getting a little low.
A little communication goes a long way, in which I tell him that my stamina is a little low, and he runs towards water, and then forgets that, well,
oh no,
he accidentally bucks when he tries to ascend. But here's where we ended up losing Sticky. And here's how that went. So the Apex pack ended up hurting the other conch a little too much, and they had to run off to go heal. And so all the focus was on Sticky. But there was also a small Megalania in the area. And, well, as you know how babies usually are, they tend to be under people's feet a lot. And so Sticky ended up going in for a little bit of damage, and ended up, well, getting caught on the Meg as soon as he tried to run out. But, in other news, there was also a Sarko in the area that was kind of just watching the whole thing at this moment.
Yeah.
And here I am sitting on the bank when I eventually get told that.
No.
And so now until everyone gets back, it's just me, Storm, and Tango. One Dinon, one Ramph, and one Suko. And I think Tango knows what he needs to do. He does what Ramps do best, which is bait the Apexes into hurting each other. And if at all possible, just plaguing them, adding a little bit of pressure and a timer to, well, when they next need to actually eat. Because they're all Apexes. That's a lot of food that they're going to need to sustain themselves. But the most useful part, at least in the immediate moment, is just getting them to hit each other. And so me and Storm try to drag both of these Titans away from the Rexes. And while we're doing that, there was another Ramphorhynchus in the area that decided to start plaguing these Titans themselves. And so I end up hopping off, getting a little bit of stamina, and as soon as I hop back on, I notice that one of these Rexes, the melanistic one in particular, has been sneaking around in order to try and get an ambush.
Oh, to the left, right in front of you, it's... Oh my goodness.
I was a little bit slow on the uptake and not very great with the information given, but hey, it worked out at least. And so Tango hops on the Rex's side, adding a bunch of plague, and this Rex ends up just waiting for the other Rex to show up and try and bite it off. But Tango ends up getting his lucky feather popped, and pretty much just forces a bunch of friendly fire damage, in which the Melanistic Rex is pretty much just going like, hey, that's enough. And so the Melanistic Rex continues to go after me and Storm, in which it's time for Indo to get back here and start attacking the other Rex. But with Indo getting back here, that means that they're all going to regroup back up, in which this is going to make it a little bit harder yet again. Though, thankfully, the other conch that ended up leaving to heal is now back, and it seems that they've also brought a friend with them, in which they are drawn to where all the commotion is happening, with Indo and Taj harassing the Titan up top near the pond who was trying to get some water, and then also the conchs down below harassing the blood-soaked Titan. Funnily enough, most of the job the Storm has right now is kind of just using Shark Bite on the targets in order to reduce their bleed healing, while everything else is pretty much just doing the bleed themselves. Though unfortunately for Indo, yet again, he gets caught out by the very sneaky Mela Rex, bone broken, and just finished off right on the spot. And he wasn't even here for long, maybe 2 minutes. And so the Mela Rex, whenever we tried to go after it, it ended up moving over to this little cliff face right here, in which there's just not enough, well, space in order to try and get around it and get any damage out on it.
I'm not so sure, but... Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Maybe if you scream for the boys beforehand.
And so maybe 30 seconds later, it's pretty much gotten its surprise attack ready, and it charges at us with a Bone Snap, which ends up prompting one of the conchs in the area to start going after it, which gives a few more opportunities for Storm to reduce its bleed healing with Shark Bite. And the wonderful thing about Shark Bite, it doesn't matter where it hits. The most important part is that, well, it hits whatsoever.
Just gonna get some stam, and then I'll be back on your side.
Meanwhile, on the other side, where the two Titans and the Rex who are actually communicating with each other, they're getting harassed by the Concavinator and Taj in the meantime. And along with that, they're also kind of just earning the ire of the Sarko that was in the area, while also being plagued by Tango, forcing the Rex into committing even more friendly fire, in which he ends up laughing at them. But that, combined with the Sarko that's in the area, is keeping them separated from the Melanistic Rex pretty damn well, in which they're getting harassed and stacked up with bleed by the Concavinator very, very heavily. And along with that, they're also just constantly being plagued by the ramps in the area, which pulled them all together to regroup yet again. But here's the funniest interaction of this entire fight. Tango hopped on the side, in which it just made the Green Rex bite the hell out of the Melanistic Rex. This Melanistic Rex, at first, before Tango hopped on, was at 3/4 health. By the time Tango hopped off, they were at 1/4 health, and are now showing death scars. Which is where now the first conch that ended up joining us came in and got knocked off the cliff, and died a spectacular death. But it doesn't end there, as the other ramp that was in the area was still plaguing this Melanistic Rex, which is pretty much just told them, hey, stop biting me, you have dealt more damage to me than, well, what we're fighting. But as for me and Storm, we moved over to where the Sarker was, kind of just trying to keep any sort of pressure we can on the Blood-Soaked Titan. But there is something wrong with this setup.
Stay still for a second, Storm. There you go.
That's right, you can still switch sides, even on Deinonychus, which should make it easier for how Storm likes to play. That way he can play a bit more comfortably, and I'm safer. But in other news, this Melanistic Rex is still being plagued heavily by the other random Ramph, and is practically begging for this Green Rex not to bite them again. Instead choosing to move to a more suitable spot that would be easier for them to defend themselves, which is where Taj ended up spotting them at very, very low health and tried to add whatever damage that they could. This Melarex right now is the biggest main target for us all, as every big hitter that we can get out of our way, well, the easier this entire thing becomes. The only unfortunate part here is that while these Rexes have been moving, well, they accidentally end up stumbling upon Tango, who was actually resting right here, and ends up getting finished off by the Green Rex. And so Taj ends up calling out that the Melanistic Rex is heavy death scars and moving towards the pond up top. So me and Storm head up there, and well, this should be very, very easy. Thanks to my position on Storm's left, only he's getting hit, and I'm just taking the damage that he would have taken thanks to Meat Shield.
There we go. Alright, Melarex is dead.
And so, with the Melarex dead, we have just Storm and me trying to keep this Green Rex entertained or distracted, whatever you want to call it, while Sticky and the other Concavinator are practically just trying to keep the Blood-Soaked Titan fully stacked up with bleed for as long as they can. But now here's a funny little thing that ended up happening while Storm was just keeping the attention of the Rex. So Storm's attacking, he goes behind, and now this Rex is just dead set on continuing to hit tail attacks the entire time, trying to push Storm off of the edge of the cliff. But after this one last tail attack, Storm almost hits the Rex off the cliff themselves.
Oh!
But while that was happening, we have Indo pretty much just watching Taj trying to attack the Blood-Soaked Titan, who is pretty damn low health in this time, while also bleeding heavily, so what's a little bit more extra bleed from an Achillo? But with all this hubbub and noise going on, it seems to have attracted a Rex to the area, in which they've spotted what they want to go after, which is the two lowish Titans. And so they run in there, Bone Snap ready, they hit one of the Titans, slowly run out, and then turn around to quickly finish off the Blood-Soaked Titan right afterwards. And so they move on to the next Titan, but this random Rex that's just run in was not alone. But they do seem to be very, very low. But now, with both the Titans dead, the final Green Rex has run in to try and go after one last low-looking target. But you know how this usually goes. A fight between two Rexes usually always ends up the same, which is two Rexes staring at each other, usually mashing the same button over and over until one of them is dead. But as it seems for the low health Rex, they were fully stacked up on bleed while their friend was fighting, and they died to bleed, doing the splits in the meantime. And so with that, the entire group we'd been fighting for 20 minutes was dead, and the only thing that was actually attacking us in that moment was just one Achillo. And so Taj and Indo just went and finished that off real quick. And all I can say is I don't think we would have done nearly half as well without at least the Concavinator that was also adding extra pressure to them. And so we thanked them, and we moved on. Or so I thought, because as I was pretty much complimenting Storm, saying how well they did, well, there was a little bit of an interruption.
Yeah, Storm, you did really, really well to account for where your Denon is placed there in terms of how you moved.
Yep, one of the Titans came back on a Thalassodrome, yes.
Oh, the revenge on Thal. Oh.
The most pathiest of Titans moment ever. Someone swapping to a flyer so they can cross the map instantly for an attempt at revenge. Their main target was Tango the Ramph. And so the easy solution for this is for Tango to hide underneath Storm for shelter, because Storm isn't really going to be focusing on using any claw attacks. And so they smash into the floor, hoping to maybe hit Tango by accident. And so Storm just turns around and kills them like that. And so, we filled up our stomachs, and decided to head out and say pretty much like a little thank you to the Rex that came in and finished off the 2 Titans. And that was that. It was a pretty fun fight over in Cedrus Forest, with some even funnier interactions that actually happened mid-fight. And honestly, the one who contributed most was themselves. They dealt more damage to each other, in some cases, than we did to them, all thanks to Tango. And so here we are at the end. So, as I said at the start, very, very interesting week with what's been going on for Path of Titans, and then just to follow it up, hey, I had fun with this, which is why I uploaded it. All the news, like what I spoke about at the start of the video, kind of got me, I don't know, a little bit excited, and I could, get a little bit more interested in, well, making a video. Because outside of that, I've been kind of busy just dealing with some IRL stuff that, I'm not going to go into, but they had, it had to be done nonetheless. And so, I went and did that, and then I would get home, and then it'd be like, oh, do I really want to go through, 9 hours of editing, or do I just want to play a game? In which usually, just playing a game instead usually won. And you may be thinking, like, what, 9 hours of editing for like a 25-minute video? Yeah, I make a lot of mistakes. When the videos are longer, then yeah, my mistakes are a lot more plentiful then. And yeah, I don't really know what else to add on to this to extend the outro. Maybe I don't need to extend the outro. Maybe I can just, leave the B-roll going of gathering a screenshot, like usual. But I guess I could ask, what are you looking forward to most out of the podcast that was talked about? Let me know down in the comments. But, with all that out of the way, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a lovely day. Bye!